Yo guys, it's Kota here. Quickly to intro the video, this is my first look at the Foraging update, and this is pretty much when the Foraging update on Alpha actually came out, but I was ill during the time when it came out. So, you don't have a live reaction voice of me, but I will do an epic voiceover in editing so that you can actually hear my thought process as I was playing along, because, well, I didn't talk at all in the original video. I hope you enjoy. Okay, so starting off right away, one thing that we can see is that the NPC that's supposed to be there in the hub that gives you like all the infinite money and the max skills and everything and the new items is just not there. So I was kind of confused here. So then here I'm making my way all the way to like where the foraging island would be, only for me to get repelled back by this thing that says foraging tutorial, and I was thinking, what tutorial? There was no new NPC. So I kind of just assumed I had to go back to the lumberjack. And now here you can see that I actually did do the 10 logs thing, but because he was still talking, it didn't accept the quest right away when I did it. Either that or it just didn't take it from my sack. Regardless of whatever it was, I ended up eventually figuring out what I was supposed to do, and I completed the quest giving him his 20 logs, and he gave me the sweet axe as a way of completing the quest and as a reward, allowing me to actually progress onto the park. Now at first the park looked the exact same as it always had, but when I actually got to the park, you can see I was in absolute awe of how different it actually looked, because it was so not like what I was used to. So then I started talking to Charlie and doing the regular birch log quest that he usually gives. So this was the moment where I actually first tried out using the right click on the axe, and let me tell you, I was just not prepared for it. I completely forgot about the ability, and it was actually really cool because I didn't have to jump up to get the taller trees. Then I also tried to left click with the tree cap, and I realized that it was actually breaking the entire tree, and then it nuked the leaves instead of breaking only half the tree like it usually does. So then as I was about to run instinctively to go to the launch pad to go up to the spruce area, I actually realized it's a whole different island, which actually really confused me because I thought the park would keep the same layout, but it actually changed. So then I come across this entirely new NPC called Kelly, where she basically tells me that she broke a bunch of axes trying to break the tree behind her, and if I bring her a bunch of spruce logs, she'll give me a reward for the quest. And of course, who am I to say no to a challenge? So then I give her all the spruce logs, and the reward she gives me is a small minion storage, which, I'm not gonna lie, I know this is a beginner area, but I was expecting something a bit better, maybe a new accessory or something. Now moving on to the dark thicket, nothing has really changed. There's some pathing changes here. Not much has changed. The only difference is they told me to go talk to the campfire guy, which I did, and then the thing was done basically. The quest was done because, yeah, I'd already done it before, so not much to see here. However, I did actually notice that the entrance to the Howling Cave is now in the dark thicket. It's in this little area here with the door. So yeah, I guess that is also new. Okay, so then as I went to the Savannah Woodland, I actually noticed they had this moving NPC worker called Xavier, who was telling me about like the fallen trees and everything. And this is where Melody was actually first introduced to us. Instead of us having to find her, there's a specific quest to actually go out and seek Melody. So pretty much you find Melody and you ask her if she's okay, which she tells you, yep, I'm fine, but my harp is broken, can you help me fix it? And me being the normal guy I am, I said, yeah, absolutely, I'll help you fix your harp. So as I was breaking all the acacia for the quest, I actually got impatient, and this is when I realized that the tree cap actually doesn't have a cooldown anymore. You can actually just spam it. So I give Melody all the tools that she needs, and then she just magically builds a harp right in front of me using the string she already had, which is when she also gives me access to the harp. So that's pretty cool, I guess. So then the next NPC you meet is Malkin, and Malkin actually tells me like, hey, by the way, the problem with this park, the main issue is there's moles. There's moles everywhere, they're ruining the beauty. We need to get rid of them. And apparently you're just supposed to agree. Rather, he asks you if you understand, and whether you understand or not, that's, you know. Now, you see, at first, I heavily doubted him because he looks like a mole himself, but then he said he's gonna generously reward me if I help him, and I can't say no to generous reward, right? So then I gave him his items for the traps, and he told me, hey, I'll make them now, but you should come back later. So I left the island for a second to go to the jungle island, then I turned around and went right back to Malkin, so I can actually go and see what he's done. At which point he told me the traps are ready and I should place them all in the right spots, so that's what I went to do. So after I placed all the traps down, I went back to talk to him, and he basically said, hey, good job with the traps, but we need to wait for the right moment, so go do something else. So that's what I did. And then I immediately came back. But then when I came back, he was actually gone from where he was. And I was literally looking around because I thought I TP'd to the wrong place. And I was kind of circling around for a little bit, only to turn around and... yeah. So then he tells me he can explain everything and he wants me to help him out of the trap, which I do help him out of, which he placed 4 moles, aka himself. Basically, he was stuck there for 3 minutes, even though I was only gone for 10 seconds. And he's saying he slipped on accident and then he ate the carrot because he was starving, even though it's very blatantly obvious that he is in fact the mole and he got caught in the trap that he placed for other moles, pretty much. But it was all worth it in the end because he does end up compensating me by giving me the mole hat, which actually gives you plus 10 foraging fortune and plus 10 mining fortune. Now it is worth mentioning that this item is co-op soulbound, so it's not like you can buy it from the AH. This is the only way to get this item, so highly recommend doing this quest when it eventually comes out. I then jumped across to the jungle island, but there was no new quest thing there, so I knew the only other place to travel to was now the new area, Galatia. This is the part of the video where I ask you to like and subscribe, otherwise you'll be stuck in one of Malkin's traps as I'm trying to get to 1,000 subscribers. Thank you very much. So upon immediately arriving in Galatia, you are greeted at Tanglebird's Path by Hina, who gives you the quest for the Heart of the Forest, which is a skill tree similar to the Heart of the Mountain from the mining quest. She also proceeds to tell you that you can actually find it in your Skyblock menu while you're in Galatia, and that's like the main place it can be accessed. Of course, I looked there immediately, but it's not there because she hasn't given it to me. She also proceeds to tell you that pretty much the way that you level up the perks inside of the tree are things called Forest Whispers, which can be gained simply by just cutting down the trees, and that I can talk to Agatha if you need to gain Heart of the Forest experience. Now, when I open up the GUI, it looked exactly the same as the old Heart of the Mountain tree from mining, which was a big sigh of relief because it meant I didn't need to learn anything new, GUI-wise anyways. After looking through the Heart of the Forest tree a bit, I continued on with the quest talking to Swoop, who basically told me that he actually knew me from the park because, well, I talked to Charlie and apparently I sent him. However, he did say friends are my enemies, which I don't really know how to feel about that one. Anyways, after basically admitting that he spawn camps a berry bush so no one else can take the berries, he introduces me to the concept of collecting berries. More specifically, this is the real meaning of the word foraging, collecting berries from bushes. Basically, he tells me about the hunting skill and how the berries are useful to craft certain hunting items. He then begins to introduce me to Sweep, which is basically the new mechanic for axes. It's kind of like breaking power in a way for mining, so essentially each tree takes a certain amount of sweep in order to be able to break it. 10 sweep should allow you to cut 10 logs in a row, depending on the toughness of the tree. So for certain trees, you're going to need a lot more sweep than for other trees. He basically explains to me that fig trees have a toughness of 7 and that they should always be cut from the trunk upwards because apparently that's the correct order to do it in. Otherwise, it's actually a lot more difficult to do. And so I start cutting down this tree and I realize that this is not at all like normal and ordinary tree cutting. This is actually a completely different mechanic in and of its own. Eventually, I managed to cut down 100% of the tree by myself, and I noticed that I get this bonus gift plus 4 rewards that I actually get from cutting down the tree. So I have a look and I get Foraging Essence, Forest XP, I get Heart of the Forest XP, and I get Tender Wood, whatever that means. And as a bonus gift, I also got Stretching Sticks 20%. Again, I don't know what that means. When I talked to Swoop again, he basically told me that the gifts are awarded to everyone who helps to break the tree, meaning that it's actually better together to forage in a group of people rather than just doing it by yourself, because everyone gets the same gifts anyways, and also that you get milestones based on the trees that you cut down and how many you cut down, and those milestones are shared between everyone who helped cut the trees down. So there you go. The next NPC I wanted to talk to was David Hunter, bruh, which... No relation or anything. He starts introducing to you the hunting skill. He also drops some lore about hunting being around ever since the ages of the precursors, and it was actually perfected by the precursors. If you remember, this relates to mining. He goes on to explain that the creatures that we can tame are called pets, which we know of, but the ones that can't be tamed have to be hunted and a shard has to be extracted from them in order for us to gain their power. He then just tells me to go and talk to Alan to buy a hunting weapon for myself so I can actually get started with hunting. Then when I turned around, I saw this thing on the floor, just, a vampire, which is the first time I'd ever seen one, and I saw that it was on 1 HP. So that was something. Then I went to find Alan and talk to him, where I noticed that the Hunt Axe shop was actually a hanging sign from one of the newer versions in Minecraft, which I thought was a nice touch. He told me that axes were the best tool for hunting and that he found the design while clearing out a damp old shed. And then he said it's surprisingly easy to use, but I don't know if he was talking about the axes or the sheds. Upon opening the shop, there was actually only 2 axes, the Sharp Hunter Axe Dominus and the axe you need to buy in order to upgrade to it, the Genesis. Then I went back to talk to, you know what, I'll just call him David. I went back to talk to David and he told me to go talk to Odin, who will teach me all the basics of hunting. Also, the name Odin sounds a lot like Odin, the Allfather. I then found Odin and then he told me to help him deal with the chill shot. But then he also told me not to kill it, just to weaken it and to punch it towards his black hole, which is definitely a sentence. Afterwards, the chill shot got absorbed by the black hole and a bunch of things happened. So firstly, I got a hunting skill level up, more specifically charming. It increased my chance of being able to charm mobs that I defeat, which allows me to capture their shards, essentially giving me a higher chance of, well, getting shards. It also gave me +1 siphon luck, which is a new stat. I also got a notification that it was sent to my hunting box, which I'm not quite sure what that meant exactly until I remembered, hey, let me actually look at the new skill and try and find where it is. So then when I opened up the menu for the hunting skill, I found the hunting box where I saw that it said chill and then 1 shard. I clicked on it just because I wanted to see what would happen and then it just sort of vanished. But it did give me a notification in chat, so I went to go back to try and find where it went, and then I noticed there's actually another thing called the attribute menu. When I hovered over it, it said that I had a thing which increases damage to skeletal creatures by 3%. So this was essentially the new attribute system that they removed from Kudra. Now at this point, there's 2 things going through my mind. One of them is, wow, this foraging update's amazing. It had so many new things. It's so unique. It looks so cool. The second thing is, out of the 2 axes that they've shown, neither of them are for cutting down trees. In fact, both of them are for killing things. So I was getting a little bit suspicious at this point. After I've done that, he proceeds to tell me that the best way to deal with monsters is to use the power of the celestial gods themselves and just summon a black hole. In fact, he tells me I can go to an NPC called Albert and just straight up buy one. I then proceed to go and find Albert, and he tells me that the device next to him is called a gravity condenser, even though it looks like just a bunch of copper and daylight sensors. He then tells me that he didn't build it, but he knows how to use it, and if I pay him stuff, he'll be able to build me or just straight up give me a black hole. So then after buying the small pocket black hole, because I didn't have enough items for the medium one, I went to talk to David, who actually timed me and told me that it took me 3 minutes and 22 seconds to complete the objective. I have no idea why he actually timed me for this, but he did. So David tells me to go and find Jaeger, and in doing so, it allows me to actually kind of leave the little area I was secluded to and look at the big swamp of trees beneath me. And I was sort of able to look around and kind of take in the environment of how amazing this island actually is. Before finding Jaeger though, I ended up taking a small detour just to buy this hunting kit because I was curious to see what it did. I thought what it was going to do is give me a bunch of new hunting items, but I found out that what it can actually do is that you can put hunting tools inside of it. And what you can just do is you can put all of them inside and you can switch out between them whenever you want, so that you don't have to have 300 different hunting tools in your hotbar or in your inventory. You can just kind of switch between them whenever you need them. I then came across Teddy on this random bridge, so I decided to talk to him. He told me he's a legendary hunter and he said there's no need to bow, and of course I immediately started bowing to him. He also told me he was 152 years old, so he was very, very old. And he told me he can teach me how to hunt anything. Then he told me I need to pay him. Upon talking to him again, it opened up a menu which let me look at a bunch of these different creatures. I paid him 10,000 so he can teach me how to hunt frogs. And he actually gives you a kind of in-depth tutorial on, well, basically exactly what you need to do to hunt frogs, which I thought was pretty interesting, meaning he was kind of like a walking encyclopedia. At this point, I'd gotten fully distracted and decided to basically talk to anyone that I came across, so I managed to talk to Kiara. She was basically the one with the greenhouse who in the trailer, and she told me that she has amphibians and reptiles. She basically explained to me that the reptiles and the amphibians genetics differ from different creatures, because the fusion machine, their shards only need 2 shards to fuse, which is much less than other creatures. And there's even a small chance for the rarity to increase. After being lost for a little bit, I finally found Jaeger, who basically asked me to help him hunt fish. Now, I thought he was gonna mean fishing with a fishing rod, but no, he actually gave me a fishing net. Basically, he wants me to go in the water and throw a fishing net at fish, despite the fact that we just had an update specifically made for fishing. After catching a fish with a fishing net, he basically tells me to go back to David and talk to him and tell him that I've caught a fish. As I was on my way back to David, I noticed this really creepy witch hut in the middle of the swamp, so I went in to go talk to her. She asks you if you've heard the tales of the fish family, and then when she asks would you like to hear more, for some reason she has to double check that you're sure that you want to hear more, and stalls in actually getting on with actually telling you about the fish family. So then she said bring members of the fish family and she'll reward you. And then I realized what this NPC actually is. Basically, all of the special fish that you get throughout the game that was seemingly useless and just a gag now actually have a purpose in the game. I went back and talked to David, and once again he timed me for how long it took me to actually catch my fish. He told me it took me 8 minutes and 26 seconds, which just proves that I was actually quite lost in actually trying to find Jaeger. He told me I got my first water shard, and when I asked him if it matters what type of shard it is, he says that it does matter, but it's too early for me to actually know the reason why, and I need to go talk to Orion to complete my training. I met up with Orion in the woods, and he told me a vampire just appeared after he cut down a tree. He basically gave me another tool to use for hunting, which was a lasso, and that was basically to help teach me how to hunt these terrifying creatures. God, why did they add these? I hate the phantoms. Why? They're the most terrifying creature in Minecraft. Anyway, so then I lassoed the vampire and I was kind of waiting for it. I reeled it in and I caught it. Then I finally went back to David, where he actually told me that I managed to finally complete my hunter training. And then he proceeded to tell me that I did it in 1 minute and 28 seconds, specifically for that objective. Now I have one of each type of shard, and basically that completes the end of my actual hunting training. Then when I talked to David, he finally actually gave me the ability to find out what shards are. He told me to go talk to his assistant Kaisha, who was standing conveniently right behind him. When talking to Kaisha, she essentially starts telling me the true purpose of hunting, which is to gather the shards. She begins to explain to me the attribute system, which essentially is like pet abilities, but works slightly differently. They're permanent buffs that you get by siphoning shards. The fusion machine lets you fuse 2 different shards together to make an entirely new shard from a different variety. You can fuse enough shards to upgrade their rarity and gain new shards from different creatures that you might not have slain before, or that don't even exist yet. So for example, here I fused the vampire shard with the cod shard, and it gives me 2 different types of shards. The 2 shards that it gives me specifically, when I press combine, are the fan flare shards and the night squid. And essentially I can choose one of the 2 to fuse them into. So for example, in this case, I'm pretty sure I chose the fan flare, because it gave me extra fig fortune and the chance to not consume any bait was kind of pointless to me at the time. So the result of this is the fan flare shard, which I can obtain, and then it goes into my sack, which I can then siphon and get the permanent boost from it, which is the new attribute system. Finally, to finish up the quest line, I talked to David one more time, and he told me that I was finished with my hunting quests and my ventures. He's told me everything that he can teach me. He then proceeds to give me the final part of the quest, his cloak. This works similarly to the Enigma cloak in the Rift, where the more you hunt, the more it upgrades. The next thing I did was I went and talked to Agatha. She told me that she's one of the Starling sisters and that she does a daily contest on her island each Skyblock day. She also told me not to wander into her sister's territories, which is strange because it seems to imply that there's more than one island for me to be able to go to. I also wandered around and managed to stumble into Dax, who essentially introduced me to hunt traps, where you set up a trap somewhere and then you walk away and eventually it catches one of the creatures. Then it just gives you the shards for it when you collect them from the trap. He also told me that you can get better fig traps from the hunt traps from the fig collection. So the higher fig collection you get, the higher tier and better hunt traps you can craft. Now I find this area really interesting because there are 2 separate launch pads which both suggest that there should be 2 separate islands coming soon, so they plan to expand Galatia even more than it already is, which I think is really cool. My current theory is that it's the other 2 Starling Sisters islands, but there's no confirmation for that yet. In this segment of the video, I essentially just started looking through all of the fig tree collections since I know a lot of people probably want to see this, and this is one of the main collections in the entirety of the Foraging update. It has the new axes, it has the new scaffolding, it has recipes for 2 new axes, not to mention it also includes the new armor. So I'm just going to leave this as kind of like a sped up version here, so you guys can pause and look at any stats that you wanted to see. However, I will not be specifically going through any items. You can kind of have a look through yourself and decide what appeals to you. In this segment, I was mining fig trees, and what I realized was that on the right on my scoreboard, it showed there was a contest going on from Agatha. When I was done with the contest, I placed in the comment bracket. I went to talk to Agatha to see what I had, and I looked and saw that I could actually claim rewards from the contest. So that's exactly what I did. I claimed the rewards, and it actually gives you Heart of the Forest XP, plus a bonus Heart of the Forest XP for a daily bonus, Essence and Foraging XP all at the same time. Then I went into the shop to actually look at what Agatha was selling, and I found out that you can actually buy a bunch of different perks from her. Similarly to what you can do with different types of essence, you can do with coupons that you get specifically from her contests. Kind of similarly to Jacob's contest now that I think about it. Then it appears that in exploring I managed to actually find Nemo. And in doing so, he was talking to me about the depths of the lake and how there's secrets hidden underneath. Unfortunately, in order to do this, you actually need diver's armor, or, well, armor that you can basically swim with, which I just don't have, unfortunately, so I couldn't cover it in this video. Yeah, apologies for that. Despite the fact that he actually does give you armor, this armor is not really good enough to do it for a prolonged period of time. Trust me, I tried. For anyone wondering, this is one of the first animals that I kind of looked up how to hunt. If you remember earlier, we actually got taught how to hunt this guy by, well, one of the NPCs we met, and he taught us that frogs, basically you have to just go after them until they eventually end up getting tired, which is exactly what I did in this clip. The frog got exhausted, you get the shard. Very simple. However, I will say that I do wish that there was less jumps in the frog because I'm kind of felt like I had to just chase him around for quite a while. I feel like if there was one less jump, it would feel a bit more intuitive. So this is when I started trying to mine the mangrove trees, but then the game, well, specifically Agatha told me, hey, by the way, you should get 50 sweep before you actually continue. So then I had a look at the Heart of the Forestry and realized I have 1,000 forest whispers, so I might as well just use them up on sweep. Unfortunately, I don't think there's a direct way to check how much sweep you have, or rather there might be by going into the menu, but I didn't think of it at the time to actually check through the skyblock menu. So I did a little bit of tree mining, and then I somehow managed to encounter this area, the South Reaches, where I started mining trees, but then I eventually noticed that there was a whole new, well, kind of campfire place set up basically around me. So then I went to talk to Brian, who was seemingly the camp leader, and he said, well, that he is in fact the camp leader. He asked us to join, well, he asked me to join him in the soul campfire so that I could get the initiate badge. Initially, I thought this was actually going to be harder than the normal campfire trials because, well, the campfire trials ignores true defense and ignores defense in general. So then I talked to this guy and he said that I survived it, but he actually told me that it's actually weaker than the regular campfire because this one respects your defense. So immediately I opened up my wardrobe and I just put on my full Goldor armor because I could pretty much stand in this thing infinitely as long as it didn't ignore my defense. However, I ended up stopping at Camp Try 5 because when I went to talk to Brian, he essentially upgraded the badge, but he told me that in order to get it, I needed 64 enchanted fig logs and I was not willing to grind that much. So yeah, I just decided to give up on it for now, and I'll do it when the actual thing releases. Now, it's been a little bit since the last clip because, well, I basically was literally just mining trees and that's kind of just boring to watch. But one thing here is that I got uncommon bracket in this the contest, and one thing you can see is that it gave me 20,000 foraging fortune, which in my opinion is actually really good. So in terms of meta, I think it's actually it's meta to do these contests for, well, foraging XP. Also, something else is that I unlocked the Heart of the Forest tier 2 and the first perk that you unlock for the next token is really good. However, the other two perks I feel like are slightly useless because except for the strength, I guess, for hunting, but the speed isn't that useful if you have a god potion because you're already at the max speed and you can't go any faster. By the way, just to preface, I don't go through the entire tree in this video, so you guys should probably look it up or look at someone else who does go through the whole tree in the video, just for you to have some clarity on what all the different perks are. In this clip here, I actually go through the Lush Lilac collection and look at all individually at all the different things that you can get with it. Mostly, it's actually just these charms that basically get you extra chance to get shards. That's literally all you can craft with the Lush Lilac stuff. So yeah, they're consumables and you eat them and they give you extra chance to get a shard from a mob. That's it, really. Something interesting I actually noticed here, by the way, if I hovered over the foraging level, you see it says that I can actually increase the foraging level cap through the foraging collection and the Starling contest. So foraging 50 is no longer the max in this update, it's actually foraging 60. So while I was farming and checking my menu, I actually noticed that somewhere along the line while I was foraging berries, I managed to pick up Berry the fish, which I have no idea how I got. I'm assuming it's a random chance from just farming berries. But then that gave me the idea to go back and visit the witch so I can give her Berry the fish so I can actually see what she says. After like 4 whole minutes of searching for her, I finally found her, and then I proceeded to give her Berry the fish. Then she told me that I found the fish, and then she added it to the collection of the fish family. So apparently all of these fish are related in some way or another. And then she proceeds to not add it, and then she tells me, wait a minute, it's gonna make a co-op soulbound, which I really do not care for, considering not only is this like a test server, but secondly, even if it was in the game, there is literally nothing I will use this fish for apart from this specifically. So then I open the menu and I see that there is subsequent milestones that when you donate these special fish, it actually gives you fishing experience. Which is actually very, very good because it's a very easy way to get a lot of fishing experience if you just have most of these fish. So here I finally started trying to mine the mangrove tree, and I even did it from the root, but what I realized really quickly was that wow, this thing does not mine at all. Like, holy, this is so slow. In this section, I was essentially just looking through the collection for vine sap. Basically, I'm going to spare you guys the details. It's essentially just used for upgrading axes and the lassos into higher tiers, which can basically just do better things. Essentially, they work more efficiently. That's about it. In this clip, I go through the mangrove log collection, and this is actually the collection where you get the travel scroll to be able to warp into Galatia so that you don't have to take the jump pad every single time and go all the way to the park. This is also the collection where you get the equipment set from for foraging, which also makes mangrove a very, very useful wood. You also get a reforged stone from this wood collection. Within the new Sea Loomies collection, you can find the basic fishing net recipe, you can find the bubbles of air, this is also where you can get the new scuba enchant from, the new talisman and the upgrades of the fishing net, plus the new recipe for the diver's armor. And up until this point, this is pretty much everything I had time to do on the server. And when I went up to the tree in order to try and get a cool thumbnail, I saw this thing, which was a giant phantom, which is pretty much my biggest nightmares incarnate. I saw this Dreadwing. It has double the HP of a vampire, and they just sit at the very tops of the trees. Look at this thing. It's massive. I kept trying to reel it in, but it just wouldn't hook in. I'm not sure why. Then it escaped, and I said, oh, no. You're not escaping from me this time, mister. So I kept trying to hook it and reel it in. And eventually, I ended up getting it. So naturally, I had to, you know, first of all, my skill leveled up instantly from 6 to 7. So I trust that that thing is probably like the mother of these vampires or something. So naturally, I actually really wanted to figure out what the shard was that I got from it. After opening up and checking the shard that I got, the Dreadwing shard gives you an Essence of the Forest boost. So the more shards of these that you siphon, the higher your Essence of the Forest you get per tree. Now, it also takes a specific skill level of hunting to be able to actually siphon these shards. However, I'd say they're probably one of the more worth it shards to collect. Just as I was about to end the video, I noticed a beacon off in the distance and I went to investigate. I thought this was just a fun gag, but then I saw people looking at it and I saw this NPC called Boris. He basically said that the beacon is extremely old and it's even probably a relic of the precursors. Basically, it radiates energy and it has to be fine-tuned to different frequencies in order for the actual beacon to work. This kind of reminds me of the blood effigies in the Rift during the Vampire Slayer area. Right-clicking on the beacon actually kind of opens up this menu where it basically tells you that you can upgrade the signal strength of the beacon, which requires a signal enhancer, but you can also tune the frequency, which opens up this little mini game where you have to match the speed and the color along with the thing at the top. It took me a little bit to actually get my bearings and actually figure out what I was doing in the minigame, because at first I thought you could only change the color, but then quickly I realized, hey, you can actually also change the speed. So I figured that out in the end and I managed to complete the minigame. Then when you actually win the minigame, it upgrades it by 5 Fig Fortune and 5 Mangrove Fortune per stack that you get on it. It was already at the max stack, so it didn't actually do anything, but it's fun little minigame that ends up helping everyone. I then ended up randomly finding this NPC just in the middle of the mountain somewhere called Sawyer, who essentially gives you a foraging fortune buff that you can apply to any foraging item, equipment, or axes, and it just gives you foraging fortune. That's literally it. You could just apply it to any item. There doesn't seem to be a limit to how many times you can apply it. And if you look, and when I clicked over to the right, it actually shows basically all of the new items that were added in terms of, well, the axes, the equipment, and the armor. Obviously minus the diver's set and the hunting stuff. But it does actually show you most of the items that you can apply this to, which helps put into perspective the new items they actually added specifically for foraging. And that does it. Thank you guys very much for watching this video. If you liked it, please leave a like and subscribe down below and let me know what you guys want to see from me next. I'm really looking forward to the foraging update dropping on the main server, and I have some cool videos planned coming up, so stay tuned to the channel for more coming up. I'm happy to be back on Skyblock, and thank you guys very much for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Goodbye.